Hello, pursuers. Welcome to another episode of the Pursuit of Happiness podcast. I am your lovely podcast host, Naz Kazimi. And if you're new here, welcome to the Pursuit of Happiness, where we break down reality TV, relationships, and real life psychology, because honestly, it's never just about the show. Let's get started with the Valley. Okay. We are going to be covering episodes 4, 5, and 6. Reason I'm a little bit behind, I'm doing a whole bunch all together, is because I was traveling a few weeks ago and I just was not able to catch up. All caught up after this episode, the Valley episode, and the Summer House episode, where I cover, I believe, another 3 episodes on the Summer House as well. I will be all caught up, and we will go back to doing weekly ones with them intermix, such as like Atlanta with Rhode Island, etc., and as the new shows come up. Okay, so let's get into the Valley. I'm excited. So I want to start off by saying that I like Nia. I really do like Nia. But pursuers, I could not help but notice that something is different about Danny this year. I wrote this before I watched episode 6. So listen to this. I said that he seems more performative this year. So this is the episode where Danny informs Nia that Luke told him that Jason has done things and he wants to apologize to him for it. Now, I don't remember this conversation, but maybe Luke is practicing. And this is why Micah teaches good etiquette. Because I think Luke is practicing what Micah teaches. Which is, you don't always have to repeat stuff and make it much more, dramatize it so that the person gets offended, You can always repeat things in more of a subtle and calm way. Now, with that being said, there's a big difference between lying about something that someone has said and just downplaying it, not making it as angry so that you can diffuse a situation, okay? But it results in meeting at the cigar lounge to have a boys' night and them to chat it out. Okay, great. We go into this next scene. There's a scene with Jesse, Schwartz, and Jason, and they meet for a spa date. And Jesse explains that he went to get a rabies shot because he was bit by a squirrel. What the heck, you guys? I think Jesse has a really strict girlfriend who's Lacey, and nothing interesting is going on, honestly, with him, because she won't allow him to either film or bring stuff to the camera. So this is his story, that he got bit by a freaking squirrel. Really, Jesse? To be honest, and as much as I hate what he was doing to Michelle, it was almost more interesting when that was going on, And I don't mean to be a hater, but it's just, what the heck? Schwartz asked Jesse about Michelle, and Jesse gave him his blessing. Again, in hindsight, all a joke. But honestly, Schwartz is a good guy. And even with the blessing, he tried to hook him up with the receptionist at the spa. Apparently, she was invited to the singles night that they're having at the Belmont. The singles night was with Lala, Michelle. I think Michelle brought a friend named Natalie, and Schwartz. All the single people went out together. That's pretty much what it was. There's another scene where Lala and Michelle go to Kyle Chan's jewelry store. Michelle wants to convert her wedding ring to a necklace. And she remembers when she was proposed to, and she said it was a beautiful time in her life. And honestly, coming from Michelle, I think that's the nicest thing that I've ever heard her say about Jesse. I remember when she said it was a one-night stand, and the one-night stand lasted 3 years. But also with that, she also followed up and she said that she hated Jesse last year, and after her mom passed, leading up to her mom passing. And then after her mom passed, she let go of the anger that she was holding on to. And that makes a lot of sense. Honestly, death makes you feel an array of emotions. And whatever is important to you, you either rearrange your thoughts around it or you hold on to it tighter, especially when it's someone that you were super close to who has passed. Death can unravel a lot of things in people. And I think for Michelle, because do you not remember leading up to, she was so mean to Jesse. And, one thing I like about Michelle now, she's really growing on me this year, this season. I know we're only at the time that I'm saying this, it would be 4 episodes in. One thing I like about her is I feel like at this point she's understanding the assignment. She might not like Jesse, he might not be her favorite person, but she knows that they have to film, and she's doing the best that she can so on camera they can film. Because, and we're going to get into it, but as we see with the whole Janet and Kristen thing, at some point, and Kristen should know better, but at some point they have to sort of have a conversation, or else think Real Housewives of New Jersey, think Real Housewives of Miami. If it gets too dark and too one-sided, and someone doesn't want to film, or someone doesn't want to chat, or someone doesn't want to do this and that, you know what's going to end up happening? The show is going to go on pause, or it's just going to get canceled altogether. So that part of it makes me really respect Michelle a lot more. And she's honestly growing on me this year. It has nothing to do with her dating Dr. Dre. It has everything to do with she's a lot lighter this season. She's more communicative. To the best of her ability, she's showing emotion. She's being vulnerable. And she's half Persian. Now, here's the funny part. I'm full Persian. And I just moved back home to Canada from after living in Mexico for a while. So, you know, I get the both cultures. Very family oriented. I get why her parents would have gotten together. Mexican culture is very similar to Persian culture. We're very family oriented, very warm, where we love and show love through our meals and our food. And you know what I mean? So at first I was like, oh, she's just like every other Persian girl. She's just a bitch, you know? But I get to know her, and you get to see, and let me finish my thought. You get to see these vulnerable things about her that make her more likable and relatable. And this is why in reality TV, it's so important to be that vulnerable. Like when you're closed off or guarded, it's not going to really land with the audience, because they can't get an insight of how you are the way that you are and for what reason, you know? Yeah, so anyways, getting back into her mom's passing, some people either become numb and don't feel, and some people feel too much, and that process can also cipher out the need from the want and the good and the bad and the toxic, and it goes literally to healing. So I think Michelle is kind of on that journey, but it's like it's benefiting her. It's not one that's kind of destructive for her, you know? That's just my opinion. We get into the boys' cigar lounge night. When Danny said, I'll see what Janet has to say. Oh, I'm sorry, Jason. I died. He's not my favorite person on the Valley this year. But I died because we all know exactly what he meant, because they all say that Jason can't think for himself, and Janet sort of, he says what Janet says. He doesn't say what Jason actually wants to say, you know? But he did nail it 100%. And Jason starts apologizing and said he handled things wrong. But Danny says, I'm not here to make friends. Which I don't understand why Danny would say that, because you're getting an apology, or the best of an apology. Why did you even show up? Because Luke told you that the whole reason this was going on is so that Jason would be there and you guys can have a conversation. If you really didn't want to have that conversation, but you just want to hang out with the boys, I get it. I just was making a point with Michelle that it's for filming. But at the same time, like, you got to take the olive branch, my G, because eventually, like, if you guys are going to be this shaky and on rocks, it's going to show, and it's going to look fake and performative, which is his favorite word, it seems. It's just not going to work out. Okay. Now, when you say that to somebody who's trying to apologize to you, of course they're going to go back on guard and get defensive as well. They're going to be like, well, what's the point of me being like this nice and trying to figure things out? I'm not sure what else Danny wants from Jason, to be honest. Jason apologized. But I think that after he apologized and Danny kind of went all weird, that's when he sort of should have stopped talking. And I understand, like, he was just trying to explain himself, not excuse his behavior, just literally explain. But clearly Danny isn't receiving anything. And I'm telling you, Danny is so different this season. And I said it once and I'll say it again. It has nothing to do with his trauma from last season. I honestly, and I hate to say this because it's kind of his thing to share, like, I feel like he's a drunk and he's secretly drinking and no one sees it. And this is the kind of mood that he gets into when he's trying to hide it. But then at the same time, I'm hearing through the grapevine that it's because he's really not drinking and he can't have a drink. And either or, if it has that much of an impact on his mood, I don't know. It's giving addict, you know? Because if you're going to be this mean to people, and again, we'll get into this as well. These are some behavior that I've seen at his wife. And I'm like, this cannot just be, I don't know. Okay, I'll get into that. Okay, let's just continue on with this because I have some thoughts, some more points to cover from this episode. Luke is complaining to Danny that Kristen doesn't appreciate him and that the sacrifices he's done. At this part, I almost threw up in my mouth. Like, Luke, seriously? How dumb and completely unable to read the room can you be? It's really not about you at this time, Luke. Like, I know you have feelings, but the fact that you're saying that Kristen doesn't appreciate you, maybe she does, but she's just in such a state of postpartum that it's hard for her to either articulate, or it seems like what Luke's issue is that Kristen is not giving him what he wants. And the sex aside, like the attention, the compassion. But Luke, are you doing the same for Kristen? Like, I think first and foremost, like to these men, the woman's the most important. She just gave birth. That doesn't mean that your feelings aren't valid. That just means that your feelings, unfortunately, at this time are going to come second. And you're asking for things that you can't even produce yourself or can't do yourself. It's gonna cause issues, you know. So now we're at the singles night. Michelle brings her best friend Natalie, and it was fun. But then this weirdo receptionist from the nail salon, Summer, shows up, and the girls did not like that. Now, the only reason I say weirdo is because it just seems like she kind of just was sprung in there. I feel bad for Tom. I feel like he was set up by production, like they encouraged her to go. So here he is in the middle, you know? I mean, how would she know what time they were going to be there? And someone had to tip her off and be like, hey, make sure that you're there at this time. If you really, you know, you'll sign a release. And, you know, I thought this was singles night, not just let's hook up Tom night. So I'm not too sure why all these, like Michelle and Lala brought Natalie, and now all of a sudden the receptionist shows up. Even in my notes, I say, I wonder if production encouraged Summer to show up, because it's giving that they did. It's giving thirsty as hell. But one thing I didn't like was Lala being such a mean girl. Like, Lala, just because you're paid to be nice to the cast on the Valley doesn't mean you can't be polite for free. I mean, as much as she was acting kind of weird at the salon, and then even weirder that she shows up, like, she's still a human being. And I didn't think she said anything mean. She just was having a conversation. Like, I don't think that she really thought much of anything, to be honest, because she just showed up kind of like unannounced, or perhaps she just didn't know what she was walking into. But the fact that they were kind of like making her sit by herself and they weren't being nice to her, like, you chances are you're never going to see this girl again. So like, the least you could have done is be nice. And if anything, I think Lala knows how that feels like, because she was on VPR and on her first season. And not that this is this girl's first season. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying on Lala's first season, they left her out so much. So the least she could do is just be a little bit nice. And I think and I don't want to single out Lala. I love Lala. I listen to her podcast. I think my expectations are just more from her, because she's such a valuable player. She's such a VP in kind of all the roles that she has, you know, and she's kind of like a leader. And I think that if she behaves a certain way, then it allows other people to kind of let down the guard and act a certain way too. And so being a leader like that, and I know it fucking sucks because I have the same personality. Me and Lola are a lot alike. That's why sometimes I can hate her to death and sometimes I just love her. But it's just a natural born ability, and we can't do anything about it. It's just the energy. You walk into a room and there's just this energy. And she's one of those girls, and I don't think she realizes how much power she has. So yeah, it goes a little bit deeper than just that girl that showed up. It's just, she can really be a force, you know, and if she behaves a certain way, people will follow, you know? So that's just kind of where I came from when I said that comment, because I just feel like Lala can really persuade. She could run a cult if she wanted to, but she could really persuade people to, you know, be a certain way or act a certain way. And she has that pull right now, especially with her audience and just where she is in life and all she's gone through and how vulnerable she's been with people on screen. So again, that's where it comes from. So we're getting over to where Brittany comes over to watch Kaya so Kristen and Luke can have a date night, as they say, because that's how Brittany pronounces it. Poor Brittany, man. Can the girl just speak like how she speaks? But anyways, I love date nights. But she has a date night. Kristen and Luke do. Tom and Zach show up. They had given Kristen and Luke 4 coupons for free hours of babysitting. But let's just say Brittany's the actual babysitter handler, and Zach and Tom are there just for moral support. But back to the actual Luke, I think that Luke is actually kind of being a little bit selfish. But I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, because when they went out for the date night, it didn't turn out so well. I feel like he is a first-time dad also, just like Kristen's a first-time mom, and they're navigating this together. Like, his feelings are valid, he's going through it, and it's okay to communicate. It's totally okay to communicate. But here's the thing. I feel like, and it's tough. It's really tough. I didn't have a partner when I gave birth. I was completely alone, mind you, with the help of my family. I mean, I just wasn't with like someone else that I had to really consider their feelings. It really did become all about me, and I'm kind of grateful for that because I'm seeing just them navigate through it. There's a lot of things that I want to excuse his behavior to. Like, for example, they started filming way too early. I know, like in Vanderpump Rules, Sheena had started filming right after she had given birth to Summer Moon. Sheena's a goddess. Sheena can just make it work. Is Sheena chats with everybody, and she could write a book, and she can go to this event, and she can wake up early and do this, and she's never not happy to do something or for someone, or she just got the energy to do it. Like for a while there, I thought she was on ADHD medication because the girl just does it all. But not everyone's like Sheena. I think that when it came to perhaps Kristen, let's say especially Kristen, maybe she saw her friends such as, or just castmates, such as Janet, and then friend Nia, and even other people from other seasons like Lala and Sheena that had just given birth and went to filming. And she thought that it would be okay for her to handle it. But Kristen's a little bit older, doesn't make a difference, but just saying, like, she's a little bit older. So I think her patience threshold is a little bit thinner. Postpartum is tough, you guys. It's tough. And on top of that, not only are you trying to figure yourself out, you have a partner that's also going through things, and he's never been through it before, nor has he probably seen this side of you before. And he's also scared a little bit, and he doesn't know if he's going to make it through. But I think this is where you just kind of have to let situations be. And sometimes there's such things like over explaining, like you're over explaining how you feel, you're over communicating. Like it's just, they get it, whether it's Luke to Kristen or Kristen to Luke, like they understand what they're going through, and they just kind of need to let it be. It just is what it is. And I hate that. Like, I'm an ADHD person, so I'm always like, how can it just be the way, like, how can it just be that? Like, that's just, it is the way that it is. Like, there's got to be an explanation. Like, I like to get to the bottom of things. I like to figure out how things work and why. But sometimes you just can't. And then the more you dig and the more you try to explain, like, it's just going to ruin everything. It's going to become resentment. So if I had to give advice and if they were to listen to it, it'd just be like, just do what you need to do in the moment. What do you need from her in the moment? Let's not make this a big umbrella about how the relationship is currently. Like we all know it's the current state of affairs that like someone is postpartum and you guys are both new parents. In the moment, what do you need? I just need you to be quiet and listen. Okay, great. That's it. And what do you need from me? I just need you to help me with the baby. Like just little steps in the moment. Let's not make it this big thing and talk about the entire relationship, or let's just in the moment, in the next 5 minutes, what can I do to help you? Okay. And sometimes when we vent or when we're explaining how we feel, we don't necessarily want an answer, or do we need some sort of response? We just want to be heard. And I think that that's perhaps maybe where they're missing the mark, or from what we can see, because we can only base our opinion on what we see, you know? So now we get into episode 5 of The Valley, and Michelle's doing gymnastics. That's awesome. I also was a cheerleader, and I always dreamed of being in gymnastics. I would always do gymnastics with my friends and we learned everything, like the back walkover, handspring, front walkover. Like I love gymnastics. So I still do it when I go to the gym. I still do those similar of the moves because I want to, and I'm almost 42, but I just kind of want my body to be in that state, you know? But Michelle starts talking about her dad. And her dad's name is Vahid, and he's Persian. So, you know, yay, Persians. But, you know, and I don't want to make fun of it and be like typical Persian dad, but seems like he was like a schizophrenic or some sort, because Michelle mentioned that he was paranoid, or could be paranoid, because he was paranoid. He thought that people were after him. So he asked Michelle permission at a very young age to leave the family so that whoever was after him wouldn't hurt Michelle and her mom. Definitely mental illness, and I don't know if it was a result of drugs or just, you know, he's from the era where there was a lot of war in Iran, because my parents, I believe, were the same age as him, because Michelle's around my age, a little bit younger, but, you know, there's a lot of PTSD from all that stuff that they experienced back home in the motherland of Iran, you know? So it could be from stuff like that. It could, I don't know, it could be that he was involved in things. I know schizophrenia, you hear voices, but like he thought that people were after him. A lot of times too, and just to give background, a lot of people that fled Iran during the war or during the revolution, um, they were scared that they were going to get found out by people such as spies for the Islamic Revolution that were living in the US or things like this. So it did lead to a lot of paranoia. There's a lot of generational PTSD from those wars that happened, which at first it was the revolution. When that happened, that was a war. Then the Iran-Iraq war. Um, a lot of things that just kind of left some residual trauma on the people that lived there. So it could be a multitude of things, but it's just easier to relate sometimes when you know their culture and we're the same culture. And I know my parents had sort of the same, especially my dad, the same sort of thing. Not necessarily paranoia, but unsure if you should head back and um yeah, just it's tough because unfortunately his, let's just call it a paranoia, distanced him from his family. And that's just one person. I just can imagine all the other people, not just Iranians, but anybody else that kind of has that residual trauma, what they go through, and they never get to the bottom of it. Like, at least I feel like with her dad, he was a bit honest about why he left. Like, I'm hearing things and this is how I am and I need to go. Like, I want to keep you guys safe. It wasn't just like a ghosting in the middle of the night and they never hear from him again, which who knows? Like, we're always questioning how come people can just get up and leave. And you always think about the worst, but the worst of what you know. And this is kind of another perspective that is interesting to know, you know? So I was proud of her for kind of opening up about that. Um, and then there's another scene where Kristen, Zach, and Brittany go to get waxed and spray tans, and they chat about what Kristen's going through. Um, it seems to be a big topic of conversation. Kristen seems to be a main point this season. And look, I'm not saying anything bad about this season. It's just a little bit dull for me. Okay? Just a little bit dull. But anyways, my next point is I'm curious why Jesse's even on this season. Like he's made like 2 appearances and literally it's either him and Lacey at lunch or at dinner. And I just don't think like it's really adding anything to the show. Maybe not yet, but I just don't think it is, you know? Uh, there's another scene, I think, when Janet had a games night. And I was watching this with my daughter, and my daughter's like, Janet's the Sutton at the Valley. She dishes, but she cannot get dished on. And you know what? This is so true. Janet thought that she was the LAPD district attorney of the Valley last year. Thanks for helping us. Thanks for helping us figuring out Danny. Thank you. But now it's severed relationships and friendships. And now you, my friend, need to navigate that however that looks for you. But it's up to you to do it. And Brittany expresses her frustration. I totally understand Brittany. She just wants to live her life, and everything that she's doing, she's also navigating a hard time in her life. And the last thing she wants to worry about is Janet and Janet's issues with every single person on the cast. I think at some point, I think Janet realized it as well, that she needs to step the F up because it's just not working. The group's divided, and I'm telling you, it's not good. Now, as we go on further, we see kind of where the division stands. There's one other person, and that would be Kristen, who wants to keep it divided. But like there needs to, because they're losing someone like me. I know a lot of the feedback that I'm hearing about this season is not as good. It's just like it's such a good form of birth control, I want to say, and I have a kid, but I'm so glad I don't have more when I watch this. I'm also glad I don't have a husband when I watch this, but it's not good. It's just not good. It's the same stuff over and over again. I don't know how much more I can really handle of watching. Um, so that was Janet's games night that, Brittany kind of freaked out when she was chatting with Janet and Lala, and I believe Michelle was in that conversation as well. And Janet got emotional. Janet feels like she's going to lose her friends, but I think that Janet hasn't made any effort quite yet to navigate these friendships and kind of make some peace, or at least be cordial. Now, Brittany is now having a pool party because the last pool party, part 1, was a disaster. Brandon steps in because he's hearing Kristen be asked if Janet's coming. And he honestly never said anything bad. I feel really bad for Brandon. He says really nice things. Like all he said, because he hears Kristen ask, or somebody else ask Kristen, where's Janet? Is Janet coming? And all Brandon said in that moment was, just be your best self, Kristen, for the sake of Brittany, because these situations really stress out Brittany. Kristen didn't like that. Kristen says that he's been in Brittany's life for a second, and I believe the word was a minute, and he needs to kind of stay in his lane. Now, Brandon hasn't been here long enough, correct. But he's not criticizing the crew like how Lala did. If Brittany is honestly comfortable explaining what has happened in the dynamic of the group has happened to Brandon, that means that he's enough into the situation to provide at least some sort of feedback, because that means that Brittany is venting to him. And his feedback would have been great on Micah's etiquette list, because he didn't say anything bad. He didn't say, you should have done this, you should have done that. He's like, just be who you are, because you're a great person. You know? Now, on the other hand, Lala interjects with Jasmine. But the way Lala interjects, she's criticizing their group on their hive mentality. Like, she's kind of throwing out assumptions, you know? But here's the difference. Brandon never said anything bad about Kristen. But Kristen kind of put him in this corner because she just doesn't want to hear it, you know? And for that reason, I kind of understand why she's kind of annoyed with it. But here you have Lala, who's known them much longer and who's actually kind of throwing out assumptions and criticizing a lot heavier. She's it's almost like she's blaming them for not wanting to resolve their issues. Whereas when it came to Brandon, he didn't criticize. He just simply told Kristen, just be yourself. Pretend that she's not even there. He didn't blame her. He never said, you guys are trying to all be a hive mentality. You're all getting up on her. He never said anything like that. He actually left Janet out of it. He just made it simply about Kristen. But the way Lala approached it, and it could be because Lala's known the group longer and she's friends with them. So she has more of a leg to stand on to criticize the people that she knows in the group and be like, you guys are all acting a certain way. You're all getting up on her, you know? You haven't been here long enough to actually see what's happened. But the argument could be that Lala has known the friend group longer, so she just knows them better. Now, another point could be that Lala is closer to Janet, so she could be also a little bit biased. Brandon is close to Brittany. And Brittany's the middleman in all this. So that's where Brandon's feedback comes from. But nonetheless, I don't think Brandon gave bad feedback. I could see how Kristen's annoyed. She is postpartum. She's even annoyed at her own husband. And to be honest, Brandon was right. So, you know, when you don't want to be wrong, you're going to hate the person that's right. I love Kristen, and I've always been Team Kristen, but I just think that sometimes, regardless of whose team I'm on, you need to take a step back and take accountability for at least your actions, you know? And if you don't want to do that, just ignore. Because you guys, first and foremost, are filming a TV show. And I know these are your true friends. And that's why a lot of the housewives say don't film with your good friends, because it does cause rifts in the group. Well, I'm sorry, but here we are. So now we have to navigate it. So at the pool party, Janet finally sits down with Zach, and finally there's some movement in resolving their issues. Like, she takes accountability, she apologizes, she says she has this complex about always having to be right, and she's trying to work on that. She also gives props to Zach for his involvement in the issues last year, saying that he handled it well and he stayed out of the group's issues, whereas she sort of inserted herself all the way in there. And that's what resulted in a huge falling out amongst her friends. Zach's like, I wish that you would say these things when you approach the others, and you approach them with this type of energy, because he can feel that it's genuine and it's finally some accountability, way more than they've ever seen. And Janet's finally being open and willing to move forward, you know, because I think that for someone that always feels the need to be right, to admit that they're the type of person that always feels, it's a step forward. Like, that is better maybe than even in a sorry. It's just, they're aware. It's like the awareness is finally there, you know? But I have to say this again. The Valley is just not doing it for me, you guys. It's not it at all for the season. I just don't know. Now we get into episode 6. We meet Kiana, who's Schwartz's now girlfriend. They have been dating for a year and a half now. She's all over his social media and vice versa. Schwartz invites oh my God. Sorry. Schwartz invites Zach and Jason and Janet and Brittany to Tom Tom for drinks and to meet his friends. Kiana shows up. She's pretty model looking, but I really did not understand the glasses. I'm sorry, I didn't understand them. Why look through them? Like, why not take them off or just keep them on like regular, you know? Like, but the whole like putting your face down to look through them, it just kind of look weird. Nonetheless, Brittany couldn't drink at this kind of brunch type thing or drinks because she's getting a mommy makeover. And I've had that sort of surgery before, minus the tummy tuck. So, you do kind of have to stop all the fun stuff so that you can heal better and that there's no complications. But yeah, nonetheless, we finally met Kiana. Next scene is that Lacey meets up with Kristen and Nia to find accessories because they're dressing up the boys. They're dressing up the boys as girls. Kind of fun. We've seen this before on Vanderpump Rules. But Lacey also says that she's contemplating going to San Diego, not because of Michelle, which I thought would be because of Michelle, but because of Janet. Surprise, surprise. Janet again. Now, apparently Janet started contacting her friends and people that she knew to find information about her. Could be because Lacey had sent a cease and desist to Janet, so it makes where the anger comes from for Lacey. Or it could be that Janet started doing this first and then the cease and desist was sent out. Like, we don't know. But I know that Janet was one of the ones that received a cease and desist from Lacey. It was Janet and Michelle, them two. Because Lacey confirmed I didn't send everybody a cease and desist. It was only 2 people on the cast. Lacey then continues to claim that Janet has screenshots of her HOA fees, which if you're Canadian, that would be strata or stratas. Homeowners Association is for the States, similar to a strata in Canada. Screenshots of her HOA fees and things she's found of Lacey off of Reddit, and she has them in her phone. She's trying to find the smoking gun, in Lacey's words, quote unquote smoking gun. But Lacey explains that she's very transparent and she won't find anything. I get it. It is freaking weird. But at the same time, I mean, did we not just see it all unfold on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills? The Chat GPT, this person, let's Google this person. Even Jennifer Tilly admits that when she first meets someone, she kind of like Googles them and figures out who they are and just to have some background on that person. So I think this is something that, I mean, the HOA fees, that's a little bit weird, but Googling someone and just finding out information of them, it's not so weird anymore, I don't think, if you really look at it in the bigger picture, like look at the world that we're in, look at the social media and just the access that we have to information. I mean, if it's out there, someone will find it. So it's good that she's being honest about like, there's nothing that you can find of me, but I can see how she's kind of got the ick from her searching, and it's just not a comfortable feeling, especially things like HOA fees. And, that's just weird. Like in Canada, that's all private. You cannot find someone's strata fees and stuff like that. I don't know how the US has so much more access to information, even court cases and like cameras in court cases. Like it's just, we have public, yeah, but like you gotta go physically in there. Like there's not gonna be there's no channel that you can watch people in their public trials, unless it's a media trial. Like I think in Canada it's different. Like there's ones that the media can be at, and there's ones that it's public. You have to go there in person, but it seems, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that in the US, like, media being there equals them being able to stream it on like a live stream somewhere, and like it doesn't work that way in Canada. A lot of information is withheld just for privacy laws, which again is different from the US. So it was interesting to even know that Janet has information like that. But anyways, Kristen is talking to Luke as they're packing and explaining that Zach called her and said, I'm not friends with Janet. Janet thinks that we're best friends because if you remember when I just mentioned that they were out for that drinks to meet Kiana and who's Schwartz's now girlfriend, she was kind of joking around with Zach. And I think that, it's just her shtick right now. She's just trying to kind of break the ice. She's not trying to be all like, she's like, this is the only way that like I can joke and have a laugh with him, so I'm going to. Janet knows they're not best friends. I don't really like Janet, but I know for a fact that Janet doesn't think that she's best friends with Zach. She's just trying to, be funny. Now, if indeed this was a conversation that was had with Zach and Zach said that, I think that that's what is like, and it's going to lead into this next thing that we're going to talk about, the next scene that happened. He could have just said nothing. But I think physically picking up the phone and calling Kristen and being like, she thinks we're best friends and we're not, it's kind of making it a bigger deal than it needs to be. But saying nothing at all would just have been like they're in a cordial place and no one would have really had a different opinion about it. But calling and trying to verify that you're not friends with this person, and they're not best friends, they're just cordial, they're just having regular conversations. But you have to let the actions show. And all the actions would have showed that you guys are just being nice to each other, because listen to this. Kristen also says that Janet thinks that her and Kristen are good, as quoted by Zach, and relate to Kristen. So Zach is not following Micah's etiquette rules here. And Micah's from Ladies of London. I just keep joking about it because she had an etiquette class about this. So this is where I think Kristen is being a little bit unreasonable. Like, come on. They're on a train or bus together. I think they're still on the bus here. You guys are going to San Diego. What do you want Zach to do? Because Zach is talking to Janet because nobody else will talk to her. And she's being funny and throwing out like all of these kind of funny things, like, I'll plan your birthday and I'll carry your baby if you want me to. But you could tell just by the way she's speaking, it's really sarcastic. Like, she knows where she stands. And Zach's like, whoa, you're moving too fast. I told you, like, we're moving slow. Like, he's saying it out loud to her. But I think because of Kristen and the state that she's in, I think she took it literally. Because on top of that, they did have a conversation. If you can't tell that Janet is trying to provoke a reaction out of Kristen by being overly friendly to Zach in a sarcastic way, then Kristen's missed it all. And you weren't actually listening to the conversation. I think Kristen was in the mindset where she just heard them talk, like just words came out of their mouth and they were facing each other, and she assumed her own narrative in her head. Because I've been like that sometimes, where I think someone is saying something and then the conversation just tunes out. Now I'm just focused on watching them speak to each other without actually hearing what they're saying, because I'm so furious that I feel like I've been played somehow. And I think that that's where Kristen's mind went. Because first of all, Kristen, you guys are on a show together. You have to at some point, like, talk to Janet. Again, I'm saying this again. If you don't, this show will be canceled. It's already a shitty fucking season. It's already like so, like, I just, like, I get bored. Like, I tried to watch this one couple episodes, like 5 and 6, like 5 times, because I would just fall asleep every time. On top of that, like, and I hate to bring this up because I know people change, but Kristen has past behavior of kind of just zilching people out, just kind of not giving them a reason and just kind of Xing them out. Now, with this situation, we know there's a reason. That's with Janet. But you have to believe, if Zach's your friend, believe Zach. Don't just act like that in front of Janet, because Janet's obviously being sarcastic, and the way that you're reacting to it, it's exactly what she wanted. She knew that you would kind of have a reaction to her being sarcastic with Zach, because she knows how much you don't like her. Zach was even telling, you're going too fast. I told you not to take Olympic leaps. And to be honest, I agree that he was just being nice, but still laying out the boundary. But again, Kristen just wants no one to talk to Janet. Kristen, unfortunately, you're not going to make Janet leave the show. If anything, we need a villain, and there's no villain. You're just cranky and postpartum. Nia and Danny can do no wrong because they always have to be perfect for the camera. We need a villain, or else this is not going to work. Like, we're all checked out of the show. I mean, I see a few comments that people are like, yeah, I love the show. It's great. But like, I'm checked out. Like, it's just so not like, there's something off this season. And if you're not going to make the effort to speak to Janet and get mad at Zach for at least trying to like do his job, then I don't know. I can't defend Kristen anymore at this point, not with these actions. I did not like Lala with the whole bedroom thing with Jesse. Like, you're not a couple, and Jesse planned the trip. So why do you get to take it with Michelle? There's so many other big rooms that Michelle could have taken just by herself. And Michelle's single, and Jesse has a girlfriend. Like, I don't understand why, like, Lala made an issue about the bedroom. Like, oh my God, girl, this is your 4th episode or 5th episode back. maybe even 6. Like, just relax a little, Lala. Like, fuck. Now we're at when they finally get to the park, and Danny. Yeah, so Danny, Nia, Kristen, and Luke are in another kind of house. It's a bunch of little houses on a property, a main house, another kind of like I think it's a pool house, and then, anyways, there's a bunch of big houses on a bunch of houses on a property. I saw Danny holding their baby because Nia wanted to eat a sandwich, and Danny was supposed to put the baby to bed. I'm telling you, I'm not liking Danny this season. Something has changed in him. I can see it in his freaking eyes. The fact that he was getting mad at Nia for watching his own baby and her taking a 5-minute break eating a fucking sandwich is absolutely fucking ridiculous. It's gross. And I honestly cannot. Danny wants all these babies, but he never wants to help in taking care of the babies. It's really scary, and I'm not liking him. It's giving Kyle in the Summer House episode that we just saw him in when he went crazy at the end, and Wes had to come be on Amanda's side. Remember that? Which I'll get into when we do the Summer House stuff. But it's like there was a possibility that he might go crazy, and I felt like in that moment, like, this is a side of Danny that's crazy, that like someone needs to stand there beside Nia just in case he does go off. Like, his aggressive nature makes the validity of all the stories that we've heard about him when he drinks kind of come true. And I hate saying that, but it does. Because if that's him sober, quote unquote, and I use that with quotes because who knows if he's sober or is he actually drunk in these moments that he's doing this, because he's not showing us that he's drinking or that he's not. He's just saying that he's not. But imagine him actually drunk. Like, fuck no. Like, he can't be like that to Nia, and he can't be like that with that many kids in the house. No way. Like, honestly, my feelers are completely up. He definitely has a temper. He definitely either is drinking behind the scenes and we're unable to see it, or not drinking at all, and that's also an issue, because why is your mood so different? And he's definitely kind of resenting that he has to do anything in this partnership, marriage with his wife. You wanted the kids, and now that she has 4, fucking help her. I saw a comment somewhere that said that the Valley is the best birth control that I've ever seen. Honestly, I agree. I have a teenager, and I'm watching this, and I'm glad I don't have a man or any more kids. And I know I've said that many times, but I just have to reiterate why it's just, this season is just so weird. Now, when they get to the park, Nia is excited because the babysitter just took off with the baby. They're getting excited. Danny turns to her and calls her performative. And like, the cameras are right there. He's like, you're kind of acting performative. Really? She was excited to be with you. But now I'm starting to understand why people think that Danny and Nia are both performative. Like, they seem to act like everything is perfect on camera, but I can tell when the mics are off and the cameras are down, they act like a completely different set of humans. Listen, that's okay. But what's not okay is pretending that you're one way on camera and you actually aren't. And everyone confirms that, but yet you continue to deny. We love watching conflict and resolution. This is why we watch these Bravo shows. But we don't like watching fake and pretending. No couple, no relationship is perfect. You don't need to pretend. And every single reality TV star has said that if there are cracks in your marriage, in your life, in your relationship, reality TV and the cameras will 100,000% amplify it, especially if you try and bury it so that the cameras don't catch it. And this is kind of my analogy, like the cameras are like casinos. The house always wins. I don't know why the house always wins. I don't have that formula. It could be that now in this case with the reality TV, could be that the mic picks up things when you think it doesn't, and you can't control what people say, and you have to react a certain way because you think people are watching. But regardless, plus post-production and editing and however that works, you're not an executive producer or producer on the show, so you don't have control over that either. But whatever the formula is, the house always wins, and everything will come to light. And it will suck if it ends up coming out that Danny and Nia have a much more tumultuous relationship, more than they had portrayed, because then it makes them look like the liars. And then everything that we've been told that we were like, nope, they're not like that, we can't help but be like, maybe there's some truth to it. Either be honest, because you have chosen to be on TV, or get off reality TV and work on your marriage. Even when he meets up with, like, right in that scene after he said that to Nia, and then like 3 seconds later they meet up with the group, he was just bitching at her and telling her that she was performing. He was like, hey guys! Like, he's all excited. Wait a minute. That wasn't performative? You were just angry. And now all of a sudden, hey guys, you realize the mics are on you, right? It's just, I'm not liking it. I'm not liking it at all. It's very dark and it's a big damper. I'm a little bit scared for Nia. And maybe not in an aggressive way, a little bit aggressively, but also like she feels completely alone. She's raising 4 kids by herself. She can't even leave the kid alone. Okay. She's been put in this spot and she has no support that way, and that's what makes me feel bad for her. Last thing I want to say is I'm because the scene with Lala and Michelle and talking about her mom, I'm really starting to love Michelle this season. I used to dislike her, but like I've said many times, she's half Persian. I've also lived in Mexico and she's half Mexican. This season, and I don't mean to keep bringing up the cultures, but the cultures sit very dear to me because I've immersed myself in both. One I am, and one I've immersed myself in for years. And both cultures are very similar, very family oriented, very, you know, lovey, and even the countries are similar, like desert climates. It's just. But aside from something that could be external or that she really had no control, and I'm really liking how she's not angry this season, and she's kind of like healing, and she's having conversations with Jesse, and she's being more out there, and we're not even seeing much of Jesse, but we're seeing more of her, and I can't help but like her a lot more. So that scene was so sad at the end when she was talking about her mom. I had like a lump in my throat. I wanted to cry. She's so strong, and I'm so proud of how far she's come, and she's definitely won me over. So I think that's kind of like the highlight of the valley so far, is like I'm starting to really love Michelle, but I'm starting to question who I liked prior, because it's just there's something off. There's definitely something off with Danny, and therefore you're starting to see the cracks in their marriage. Kristen's got to be off her rocker, and we get it. She's postpartum, but I don't want to keep using that as an excuse, because at some point, like, you're filming a show. If you're going to be that crazy, you don't want to talk to anybody, and you don't want to figure things out with Luke, and you just want to be postpartum mom, then you should have been like, I'm not filming, because this is not a good look for you. But I love Zach. Zach is like the only one that's like literally doing his fucking job. Um, I've always loved Zach. He's always sort of like a reasonable person. And isn't that what Janet also mentioned too? Like, her friends, there was a big issue with her and her friends, and Zach, although giving his 2 cents, managed to stay out of it. He seems like a very reasonable guy. He can get emotional and reactive, but I think when he's trying to kind of keep the peace, he's definitely the peacemaker of the crew, because you have Lala and Michelle that don't get involved at all. And to be honest, Lala just criticizes because she's friends with Janet. She doesn't really look at anybody else's point of view. Then you have Nia and Kristen that don't want anything to do with Janet. And you have Janet, who's the villain. And then you have Zach, who's kind of neutral. So, and I think Michelle's neutral too, because I saw that she was getting along with Janet, because she was there with what's it called? Brittany and Lala at Janet's game night. So I think she was always kind of on that side anyways, but I'm just saying she's a little bit more neutral. Like, she's not acting weird towards Janet at all, So it's interesting. It's very interesting to watch. It is great birth control. So if you don't want kids, or you weren't able to have more kids, which that would be me, because it just never happened, but you have the one, or you have none, or whatever, watch this and be like, thank God. Okay, just thank freaking God, because it makes you remember. I don't hate the cast. I just think that some of them are being unreasonable. And I don't want to kind of put them down when they're in these states, because I also was there too. I just didn't have I didn't have the opportunity come to me either. Like, no one asked me to be on a reality TV show. And I'm kind of grateful, because I was able to take photos and stuff when it's always been good. And not that people can't relate to this, but it's starting to get a little bit dark. And I'm just going to leave it at that. So I saw the previews for the next episode. Looks like it gets a bit juicy. We'll see how that works out. But that was The Valley, you guys. Tell me how it was, pursuers. Please don't forget to follow, like, subscribe, share everywhere you get your podcasts. Find me on my socials, the Pursuit of Happiness podcast. It's also in the show notes. Send me a DM. Let's chat. I really want some feedback. I want to see what you guys are thinking. I post a lot of clips. I post a lot of podcast clips. I post a lot of Bravo clips, reality TV show clips. Check out the socials. It's a great community. I want to build a community where we can chat and have great conversations. I know there's lots of them out there, but this is just another one that's a little bit different. So thank you for being here, pursuers. Catch me on the next episode. I will be breaking down Summer House. Have a good one.